Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into episode 4 of the Fantasy Facts podcast. I'm here as always with my co host, David. David's rocking a little Broncos country jersey over there, I see. How's it going, David?
Broncos country, let's ride.
I guess Russell Wilson did say that once upon a time.
Let's ride.
Um,
Let's ride.
as you can tell from David's jersey, we're jumping into the AFC West on today's podcast. I'm also rocking some AFC West merch. Got the Raiders jersey on today. Raider Nation. Um, Legend Darren McFadden, David. Remember Darren McFadden?
Bro was like what, the RB something one of the years? RB4, RB2. I
He was
remember you
Icar-
talking about it last time you wore that jersey.
he was Icarus, dude. He flew too close to the sun. He was never the same. Anyways, David doesn't have anything to add about Darren McFadden apparently. Shout out Darren McFadden. You should actually, David, though, if you're ever in one of the, like when you want to sit down in front of a TV and you're like, dang, I just want to turn on Tavon Austin highlights. You know that mood. Um, if you're ever in that mood, but you're not in, you're like, I've seen the Tavon Austin video too many times. Search up some Darren McFadden uh, clips from college. He was electric. Really, really good player.
I'm more of a Russell Wilson's highlights kind of guy.
Bro didn't really
Especially
have.
Broncos
I feel like
Russell
bro didn't
Wilson.
have many college highlights.
Wisconsin.
What does he say? He goes, Russell Wilson, a whole pack of Badgers, and every single time I want to punch my TV screen.
Russell Wilson. I'm a cornball. The University of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and he went to the worst college in America, so tough looks.
Bro was good on
Bro's,
the Seahawks.
bro's not even a true Badger either, dude, because remember he started out at like NC State or something, dude?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Yeah.
transferred there.
Anyways, enough random college knowledge and enough disparaging of the Wisconsin Badgers. We're going to get some hate if we don't stop. Um, like I said, today we're covering the AFC West, our last division over in the AFC side of the NFL. Um, as always, these episodes are dropping on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. You can find our social media. We're over on X at the Fantasy Facts. TikTok, we're fantasy.facts, and Instagram, we're also fantasy.facts. As always, facts is spelled FAX. Um, we are going to continue our divisional breakdowns in the next episodes coming up. We'll be talking about the NFC, though. So, unless David has anything to add, let's jump into the AFC West. Anything to add, David, before we jump in?
Excited to keep working through these and get to some more exciting stuff because starting to, I don't know, this division is a little bit interesting to me. I don't know. I guess we'll just jump into it. That was kind of a weird way to put that, but um
Yeah, you were like, this content is boring. And
no, I
then,
don't mean it by
but this
that. I
division's
just mean
interesting.
I don't mean like it's boring to listen to. It's just repetitive to be doing the same thing all the time. So excited to start to get into some more variety for you guys.
Well, we're only halfway through after this episode, so we're not as close as you seem to think.
Halfway is closer than the start.
Facts, brother. No, I'm actually enjoying these episodes because I think it's like some of the most important stuff, and I think it's stuff that people miss, right? Like it's so easy to be like, "Oh, my fantasy draft is a week away, and I didn't even know that this guy switched teams, or I didn't even know that this team drafted a first round wide receiver. I just assumed that the receiver who was there last year was going to clearly be like the number one." You know what I mean? Things like that, like people need to know that stuff. It's going to help set up all the content we have coming in terms of draft strategy and mock drafts and how you build your roster and, stuff that we really love fantasy football wise, but this is that foundation that it's all built on. So, um, while it can get a little repetitive, I do think it's super, super helpful. So, That's why we do it. And let's jump in. Um, just a reminder for everybody last year how the AFC West shook out. The Las Vegas Raiders finished 3-14 in fourth place. They also had the worst record in football when you used the tiebreakers and therefore had the number one overall pick. Crazy year for the Kansas City Chiefs. They finished 6-11 and in third place. I think that was one of the biggest surprises around the NFL last year. The Los Angeles Chargers finished 11-6. They were an AFC wildcard team. However, they lost in the wildcard round up in New England. And then kind of the surprise of the division, I would say, almost as surprising as the Chiefs dropping all the way down to third, was the Denver Broncos went 14-3. They were AFC West champions, and they lost in the AFC Championship game also to the New England Patriots. So New England eliminated both playoff teams from this division last year. I was looking through some of the standings and stuff. And you know what? I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to hold on to that thought. I think that's going to fit in better somewhere else. So I'm going to bring that up in just a minute. But David, should we start from the bottom? The black and silver and black,
Started
whatever they
from
call
the
themselves.
bottom, now we here.
Fake Raiders guy over here right now. The Las Vegas Raiders. We already highlighted. Really disappointing season last year. I know Pete Carroll was fired, but remind me, Pete Carroll was one and done?
I genuinely can't remember. It was either 1 or 2 years. I think
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say Pete Carroll was one and done. Why don't you verify that while I read? Why don't you verify
last year was
that?
Sam Darnold's first year on the Seahawks, right? So yeah, then it was 1 and done, I think.
Okay. Why don't you verify that while I read some stats? The Raiders last year, abysmal fantasy statistics. 32nd in plays per game, slowest pace of play in the NFL. Pass rate over expectation, negative 1.8%. Their EPA per play, 32nd in the NFL, meaning they had the least valuable plays in the NFL. Their run percentage was 38.92%, which was 29th in the NFL, and they only scored 14.2 points per game, also dead last in the NFL. So if you had pieces on this team last year, it didn't go well. Brock Bowers even got hurt, so those people who drafted Brock Bowers that high kind of paid the price. David, I don't remember if that was you or not. Was that you in our league of record?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject. I actually couldn't remember.
I think it was. Maybe now that you're even making me second guess, I think I did. I think I took Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers to start, and then I took because all my early picks were terrible, and my late round picks were what saved me the whole season.
Yeah, I do remember that. So even Brock Bowers managers kind of paid the price. Those who spent high on that, late first round, early second round draft capital on Ashton Genty didn't live up to that draft position. I think he showed he had talent, but I mean, there was nowhere for him to run. Nothing for him to really do, unfortunately, because they were so bad on offense. The solution from the coaches and coordinators perspective, they hired Clint Kubiak to be their head coach. He was the offensive coordinator of the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, who had a very good offense. He brought Andrew, I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Janoko over. He was on the offensive staff in Seattle as well to be the offensive coordinator. And then they promoted from within for DC and promoted Rob Leonard. Outgoing fantasy contributors, there wasn't much on the Raiders. I mean, you can talk Jacoby Myers, even though he was kind of traded mid-season last year, so we saw the Raiders without him. But Jacoby Myers obviously is not there anymore over in Jacksonville. Not a ton of super. Am I missing anybody on the Raiders, David, leaving offensive-wise? I feel like I might be for some reason. I don't have any more in the doc, but It's making for some reason I just feel like they lost somebody else, but maybe they didn't. Honestly, they didn't really have much to begin with.
They
Um,
lost. You said Geno. I mean,
I didn't say Geno Smith. Is is Geno Smith leaving, losing, or winning?
is Kirk
Uh,
Cousins any better?
well, probably not. But the main thing we have to talk about is Fernando Mendoza, right? Um, they signed Jalen Naylor over from the Vikings, a wide receiver. I was looking at their roster. Jalen Naylor might be the wide receiver one on this football team, as crazy as that is to say. So he's definitely somebody we need to talk about fantasy wise. Um, they signed Kirk Cousins. They definitely signed Kirk Cousins to be the bridge quarterback because with the first pick in the NFL draft, they took Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana. Um, Everybody, I think, probably knows who Fernando Mendoza is, but he was the quarterback on the college football national champions, and he's pretty darn good at football. Um, should we talk Fernando Mendoza first, David, or should we talk Jalen Naylor, or should we talk offense in general? I'm gonna let you decide.
Let's talk about our boy Speedy. I could not believe how much money he got, but in hindsight, it kind of makes sense if he's going to be their wide receiver one.
Do you remember when the
And
Vikings drafted him, and I was like, I freaking love this Jalen Naylor guy. And I
mm-hmm.
feel like he flashed, but he never got the opportunity. I mean, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, they just make it hard.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say it's pretty much impossible when you have two receivers like that in front of you. But yeah, with the wide receiver market too, as expensive or as limited as it was this offseason, you just kind of saw people getting more money than you would have expected in general. So I think
Like how
Josh
Dave,
Naylor is someone that also, or not, yeah, Speedy Naylor got a little bit more than he would have other years, most likely. Also, probably screwed the chances of the Vikings being able to re-sign him because it was just so needed. But we'll get into what the Vikings did to replace him when we get to that episode. But yeah, he's going to be on the fantasy radar for sure, like you said. With him having pretty much no depth at receiver, was Trey Tucker still there?
Trey Tucker's
Players
still
like
there.
that,
I
yeah.
verified that. And then Jack Bash, the rookie
Jack Bash
from last year,
didn't
second
see
year
much
player
last
this year.
year.
He didn't
Pete
look to be the
Taylor's
part. But
Pete Carroll's pick as well, who's not there anymore. So no commitment to him anymore as well.
DeAndre,
Um,
Deon, DeAndre or whatever Thornton, who had a little flash for a minute as well last year as a rookie
yeah,
as well. But
whole
yeah,
lot of
there's
nothing. Yeah,
whole lot of nothing is the point. Yeah. Um, yeah, but I think we need to talk about Jalen Naylor. I don't see how he's not the number two target on this offense. It's obvious that Brock Bowers is number one, obviously. But they need somebody on the outside to do something. And they paid Jalen Naylor to do that. Whether he can or not remains to be seen. But I've personally been a Jalen Naylor believer from the beginning. I loved him at Michigan State, and I loved his tape from Michigan State way back when he was drafted by the Vikings. Um, the Vikings do pretty well with late round wide receivers in general.
Vikings just do well with receivers in general. I think, other than Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go back a little bit further with the Vikings, there's a lot more misses than that. Troy Williams and things like that. But um,
Recent years.
yeah, yeah. Hey, I was reading through one of these teams that we were discussing the last week or two, and Laquan Treadwell had just re-signed, and he was going into his, I don't know, 9th, 10th NFL season. So
I bet it's longer than that at this point.
he's doing really well for a wide receiver that sucks at playing wide receiver.
And he does great at like going on the practice squad and then making the roster and playing for 2 games and stuff like that. Good for him, though.
I think actually the answer, though, is Laquan Treadwell's an excellent special teamer. And he makes a lot of NFL rosters because of that. So, anyways, they brought in Kirk Cousins. He's going to start at quarterback for, who knows, 2 games, 5 games, 6 games. We'll never know for sure, but it's not going to be the whole season. The Raiders are going to be bad again. And at some point, people are going to want to see what Mendoza's got, and then Mendoza's going to come in. What's your opinion on Mendoza, David? Let's
Well,
talk
first of all,
about him.
I
He's the
actually
number
think
one overall
Kirk's.
pick in the draft.
I actually think Kirk will play longer than we're thinking. I think he'll probably play at least half the season this year.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, when the Raiders are 1-6, I think there'll start to be some shouts. But
I just have a little tiny bit of insider information about the situation Kirk Cousins is into, so I kind of know what he's expecting for himself and all that. So just go as far as that. I don't want
David's
to.
got his insider sources.
I do
Have you already
actually.
started to see the memes about the two of them together, dude? They freaking crack me up.
Oh
They're
no,
so
it's
funny.
hilarious, dude. Yeah, no,
It's
they're
like
like the
the guy
duo
that's
is
like
just
the
hilarious.
biggest dad you've ever seen, and then the guy who's like training to become the biggest dad you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's it's like two guys at your church, or like two youth group leaders just like playing football together or something.
Yeah,
It's
but
pretty
it's really
awesome.
fun. I love it. I'm actually really looking forward to watching the Raiders a little bit this year. I think they're kind of like the Titans. They're intriguing, even though they're not going to
I
be
just
good.
think it's hilarious. Of any team that you could put Kirk and Mendoza on, it's the Raiders. Like
I know, right? The
the
Raiders with like
last team you would ever expect.
yeah,
Like
you
the
know, the
big bad
Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah, exactly right. They have this like perception, the Raiders, and then
The
you put
big
the
bad
two
Raiders
like
featuring
most
I'm Kirk Cousins and
genuine
I'm
like
Fernando Mendoza. And I
the
hope you have a
two
great
the
day.
two guys that the deepest they'll go into the swear bag is Frick.
Hey, Mendoza dropped a F bomb after winning the national championship, dude. Don't
That's
forget
true.
it.
He
But
did do that.
Kirk is more of a
I think he I think he felt
kind of guy.
bad. I think he felt bad about it for weeks probably. Kirk Cousins just wants to know if you like that. So, um,
Dude, have you seen the compilations from when Kirk's with the Vikings where he gets sacked? He's like, "Gosh dang, that was a good hit, man." It's like, bro, golly, darn, shucks.
he says like "gosh darn" the most. I think "gosh
Those are big.
darn,
Gosh darn it.
gosh darn."
Gosh darn.
Anyways, we love these guys. They're funny. I want to see Mendoza play. I was about to ask you before we went down the Kirk Cousins Mendoza meme trail. Like, what's your opinion of Mendoza? He's the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. We got to talk about our view and scout report on him.
I think he's high floor, lower ceiling. I think he's more of an accurate. He's has the intangibles as far as like intelligence, game decision, leadership, that kind of stuff. I don't think he has all the talent in the world, like arm talent, like strength, that kind of stuff. But I mean, he's not going to be terrible because he's going to be smart with the football. I just don't think he's going to be. He's not going to be the highest upside quarterback at like the first pick. Like I would take Cam Ward's upside over Mendoza's upside, but I would take Mendoza's floor over Ward's floor.
That's fair. Cam Ward just scares me. There's just some times last year where he just held onto the ball too long. Looked like he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing. He worries me a little bit, but I'm hoping he makes a jump in year two.
I just feel like you can learn the game management type of things over your career. You can't really learn arm talent.
Yeah, I think Mendoza's got a little more arm talent than you're giving him credit for. I don't think. I mean, he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Justin Herbert arm talent guy. Definitely not.
I feel like he's like Philip
I
Rivers.
think I think he's gonna be like really, really great at facilitating fantasy options once he's well versed in the NFL. Like, and if you're gonna compare him to Philip Rivers, I mean, let's go pull up the Antonio Gates tape, right? And like, if that's what him and Brock Bowers become, like, I'm all for it, right? So, from a Brock Bowers perspective, I'm excited. I think he's going to be able to facilitate Brock Bowers significantly better than anybody Brock Bowers has had so far. So that's great. I think David's right. I think that he has a limited upside for a number one overall pick, but I do think he's going to be a solid NFL player.
Is it? I mean, this is kind of funny to say. Is he? I mean, his play style obviously reminds you of Kirk, as well as personality. Do you think he'll be a better NFL quarterback than Kirk, or do you think he's kind of got that Kirk Cousins ceiling? I kind of think he has the Kirk Cousins ceiling.
I think the Kirk Cousins ceiling is right. Like, Kirk Cousins he's not that anymore. He's old and injured and, has an Achilles injury and all those things. But like prime Kirk Cousins, I mean, he was putting up stats. He was facilitating multiple, top 15 wide receivers. So if that's what he gets to, that's great from a fantasy
Yeah, and
perspective.
I don't
It's not
mean
maybe
like,
what you want to hear from a Raiders
yeah.
perspective, I
So I was
guess.
gonna say, like, I just meant in a football sense. Like, was a good quarterback, but he was not great. And for Mendoza to have that same kind of career path, that would be disappointing. I think just from being the first overall pick. Obviously, with Kirk, he was what? What round was he? Third, maybe
Kirk Cousins was
third,
a
fourth,
fourth round pick, I
fourth.
believe.
Yeah, and he was
Um,
the second quarterback. The Redskins at the time had taken in that draft after RG3. So Kirk
yeah,
Cousins was a
but if people would
surprise.
have known what Kirk Cousins was going to turn into ahead of time, if you had that foresight, like Kirk Cousins would have been a first round pick.
Yeah, I'm just saying the upside for the first overall pick
So
obviously is
yeah,
interesting comparison.
he kind of reminds me the guy I'm going to compare him to, like not necessarily that their play style is so similar, but the way that their arm talent maybe is a little bit limited, but they know how to play the game really, really well is Baker Mayfield. I don't think that they play the game a similar way at all. Baker's much more like scramble. He'll run more. He'll take a little bit more risk with the football, but like the kind of guy that's like maybe the arm talent's a lot like top tier, but like really knows how to play quarterback. I kind of see that as well.
But I feel like Baker kind of has a cannon at the same time. He might not be the most like he had a strong arm.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like Baker Mayfield is nowhere near the arm talent of like a Justin Herbert or something like that. He's never been able to throw the ball that crisp and well, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about
I
that,
think
but
he had more accuracy issues in the NFL. I don't think his arm strength was ever the issue.
I feel like when I watch him play, I'm like, yeah, that guy doesn't have the arm talent that Josh Allen and Justin Herbert have. I don't know. That's just the vibe I get when I
Well, you
watch him
can't
play.
compare
But
everybody to Josh. Obviously, he doesn't have the arm talent of Josh Allen. I mean, it's silly to compare.
but we're talking guys like with top notch arm talent, and I don't think that's Baker.
No, but he has a strong arm.
Baker
I'm
throws
saying.
with amazing anticipation. Um, and yeah, I mean, again, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just going based off of vibes, but I think that he's going to end up in that echelon of quarterback, not the top guys. I think is what David and I both agree on. Um, I thought David was going to say something, but I don't
Baker
think he is.
Mayfield was sixth in arm strength like rating in the NFL last year.
Okay, so maybe that was a poor call by me. Um, Either way, I think that David and I both agree he's going to end up in that Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins in his prime echelon of quarterback more so than the top guys that we talk about. Is that fair to say, David?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But again, if he becomes that from a fantasy perspective, that's all good for us because those guys support many great fantasy options and have for a long time. The other thing I want to talk about is the Clint Kubiak hire. He absolutely revolutionized the Seahawks running game. Kenneth Walker went from like one of the most disappointing running backs with the amount of talent he possessed to an absolute dog. So Clint Kubiak makes me really, really, really excited for Ashton Genty. And I just needed
Yeah,
to
I was
talk
gonna
about that.
say, I think for their offense, I think it's gonna be not the best thing for the pass catchers, but I think as far as like Ashton Genty, it's gonna boost him to the ceiling. I mean, you look at the Seahawks, and as we'll get into when we get to the Seahawks, they were one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL, despite winning the Super Bowl. So that proves that like they could succeed with the run game, and if they're able to lean on Ashton Genty, it could make them better than people would expect. Obviously, you need more offensive line improvements there, and it will make. I mean, I think the receivers aren't going to be terrible by any means, but when you're throwing the ball at such a low rate and you don't have an elite quarterback, which I don't project Mendoza to be elite, it will kind of limit. Honestly, I could see Mendoza be kind of like a Sam Darnold last year, just like a game manager, which I think that's a good comparison, honestly, like a current Sam Darnold. But anyways, what I was getting at was I think they'll be very run heavy this season, which will help Ashton Genty. But then out of the play action, it'll end up benefiting like Brock Bowers, getting him into the red zone more often, that kind of thing. But just in general, I think run game should be much improved.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, this is a two player fantasy team. Um, I do. You were talking about the offensive line upgrades, and I remembered back as I was reading about the Raiders, and I just needed to confirm. But they did invest in the offensive line. They signed Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens, the center, to a 3-year, $81 million contract. Um, and obviously, that's going to really help the interior of that offensive line. Um, so they did do a little bit to upgrade in free agency there. And then I would have to confirm as well, but I believe they drafted some offensive linemen as well. Just confirming that before I stick my foot in my mouth. They took a guard at pick number 91, it looks like. Um, So yeah, they invested some of their free agent money in the offensive line, as well as I believe pick 91, if I'm doing my math correctly, is still a day two pick, um, in some offensive line help as well. So I'm hopeful that the offensive line, especially on the interior for the interior running for Genty, is better. So yeah, I'm really excited about Genty.
Drew, I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is kind of backtracking, but let's see your
Yeah,
ball
do it.
knowledge. All right. Who has the higher arm strength via analytics? All right. I'm going to give you two players, and you're going to tell me one of
We've
them's going
already
to be Baker.
established I obviously don't know, so
No. I want to see if you can get this. Okay. Is it Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow?
Baker Mayfield.
Okay. And is it Baker Mayfield or Caleb Williams?
Ooh, that's tough because Caleb does have some arm talent. My guess is they're pretty close in the rankings. I'm gonna say it's barely Baker.
You got Baker at 6, Burrow at 7, Williams at 8.
Yeah, not bad, right? Um, yeah, I'm surprised that Burrow was higher than Williams. I feel like I don't think of Joe Burrow as like he's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but again, it's not like those like his throws just like jump off the page. I always think about the way he plays with anticipation and delivering the football on time and on target. But he's got some arm talent too, obviously. So, um, anyways,
Mayfield
I
actually
just
holds
want to
the record
emphasize
for the
again, I
walk.
really, really, really like Ashton Genty. I think people need to be drafting Ashton Genty where he is right now in terms of ADP. I would have to check Brock Bowers' ADP. Um, if he's going as high as he was last year, which my guess is he isn't with the injury, but if he is, it scares me a little, even though Brock Bowers is amazing.
Sorry, I'm really caught up on this, but Baker Mayfield actually holds the NFL record for longest recorded pass attempt. He threw a ball over 70 yards in the air in a game. It's ridiculous.
So, what do you think about what I said about Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers?
Sorry, I just got really intrigued by all that. No, I agree with everything you said. It's a
You're
two
a little
horse
worried about
offense.
Brock Bowers, depending on where he's going, even
Yeah,
though the talent's there.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
take him earlier where he is. I mean, I learned it firsthand last year, and I don't think it's going to be much better this year. So I would hold off on
Genty kind
that.
of strikes me as like the running back version of AJ Brown. Like the situation's way better this year, and his like draft stock is going to be lower than it should be because of how bad he hurt people last year.
Yeah, I think Ashton Genty's going to be the one to get in the offense. He's going to be more valued than Brock Bowers via ADP. So I would be going for him over Brock Bowers for sure.
Perfect. And just like that, we talked about the Raiders for 30 minutes.
All right,
um,
got a little sidetracked there, guys, but hopefully Hopefully you guys learned something because I did. I can tell you that much.
It's all good stuff. Kansas City Chiefs, surprisingly, in third place last year. They were 15th in plays per game. Their pass rate over expectation was negative 0.9%. EPA per play was 7th in the NFL, so they still had very valuable plays for your fantasy players. Their run percentage was 27th in the NFL. They could not run the football. Isaiah Pacheco looked like a shell of himself. Um, and they were 21.3 points per game, which was only 20th in the NFL, so much lower scoring Chiefs offense than we're used to. Only change to the coaching staff. Matt Nagy is no longer the OC. Eric Bieniemy is back as the offensive coordinator, having previously held that position, I believe, from 2018 to 2022 were the years, but I don't have them in front of me. Outgoing fantasy contributors, like we talked about, Isaiah Pacheco is gone. He just really never looked the same after he had that injury. I shouldn't block my mouth from the mic. He never looked the same after that injury. He just never did. And Hollywood Brown is also gone from the wide receiver room, which I can't say is a huge loss for the Chiefs, but he is gone. The two biggest stories I think surrounding the fantasy production for the Chiefs this year is Kenneth Walker was signed as a free agent from the Seahawks. I think a lot of people are really high on Kenneth Walker. I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be one of those people whose draft price goes too high. Like he just gets to the point where it's stupid to take him anymore. I wish that wasn't the case, but I think he's one of those like trendy, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to take him 2 rounds early guy. But we'll talk about Kenneth Walker and the fact that he definitely upgrades that run game. And then the other big story surrounding the Chiefs is, what's the deal with Mahomes, right? So, I was looking at it this morning. He had his surgery end of December. The typical timeline for recovery is 9 months. That puts you at the end of September. There's a give and take of a month or two on either side. So he could be ready a month or two short of that. He could be ready a month or two after that. And obviously at this point in the season, in the off season, we're not getting a ton of info. So that's kind of a looming cloud with the Chiefs because if Mahomes isn't there, it's obvious that this team and this offense isn't going to be as good for fantasy.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mahomes is ready for the start of the season. And I also wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs decide to be a little conservative and let him be healthy before I start playing him. Either one way, I could see it going, I think. And they have Justin Fields now as well, who will likely
David,
start.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think you need to talk just a tiny bit louder.
Okay. Yeah, Justin Fields is there. If Mahomes is out, then he's going to probably be the starter at the beginning of the year, which will be impactful to the fantasy options, including Kenneth Walker specifically.
Yeah, I think this is a hard team to dissect because it all depends on Mahomes, but they were desperately starved for a running game last year. So, I mean, I'm really excited about Kenneth Walker's prospects. Again, the issue for me with Kenneth Walker is I think his draft cost is going to explode to the point where he's getting drafted too high. So I have a feeling he's going to be one of those guys that I like that I never get. But we'll see on that. Outside of that, the Chiefs' offense is pretty similar. I don't know necessarily how much more I have to say about the Chiefs. Mahomes is the key, and it's going to be one of those things we kind of have to watch through training camp and stuff.
Would you be surprised if Tyreek Hill signs back with the Chiefs?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I can't necessarily say I'd be super moved by it either.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
He
could be a good fit if he can get back to somewhat healthy though, alongside Rashee Rice. Just spread the field a little bit.
I did see that they re-signed Tyquan Thornton. I think they really like him as that deep threat on that offense as well. Not saying that precludes them from signing Tyreek Hill, but I feel like at this point they kind of fill similar roles. They have some other receivers there too, but it's kind of one of those teams where it's like Raji Rice and a bunch of other guys that can do stuff. You know what I mean? But they don't often, and sometimes they do. And then you're like, well, is this the number two finally? Do we finally know who it is? And then it's like, nope, it's Tyquan Thornton today. Nope, it's Juju Smith-Schuster. Nope, it's Hollywood Brown. You know what I mean? It's like that. But at least that's how it was last year.
Yeah,
Um,
obviously, Rashi Rice, when healthy, is like the only option that's consistent.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think
Sorry,
this
is
team's
my
pretty
audio
straightforward.
okay on your end? Or
Yeah, your
just trying to
audio's
figure
fine.
out what's
I
here.
think you were just kind of sitting back from the mic and talking a little quieter, but you've been
It's
fine
still good
since.
right now. No
Yeah,
echo or anything for you. Okay.
no, not at all. Um, Kenneth Walker, I think, right? It all depends on draft cost, but he's going to be somebody you want to draft if the draft cost is right. Or not Hollywood Brown, Raji Rice, obviously. Um, and then we got to see about Mahomes, but they're a pretty straightforward team to me from a fantasy perspective.
Yep. 100%. Kenneth Walker at value ADP. Good pick. If he starts to be drafted too early, then I'm out on him. But if you can get him where he's at right now or where he was at when I last time I was looking, it's a good pick, I think.
Exactly right. Okay. We talked for 30 minutes about the Raiders and 7 minutes for the Chiefs. So I think we even it out. Should we talk Chargers? A lot of changes with the Chargers this year. Their coordinators were in demand. They went and got jobs elsewhere. Mike McDaniel is the new offensive coordinator, the former Dolphins coach. And Chris O'Leary is the new defensive coordinator in LA. Obviously, Harbaugh is still in charge. Outgoing fantasy contributors, kind of a fringe group of guys, but did all play or were supposed to play, but didn't because of injury. So, Keenan Allen, I think Keenan Allen's finally done, right? Um, Tyler Conklin is gone as well from the tight end position. Najee Harris never really got a chance to play. And Will Disley, I just had to throw in there because whenever you get a chance to talk Big Montana, we gotta just quick throw him out there.
Does Najee Harris still have two eyeballs? Does anybody know the answer? Because he's been wearing that blacked out visor and nobody's seen his eyes since that firework incident.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody signed him either. I think Najee Harris might be done.
I actually don't know for sure. I don't think he has been signed.
I'm almost certain he's a free agent because I was looking at all of this yesterday.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I would say he probably is. I haven't seen anything on him being signed, so
3 days ago, there's a Sports Illustrated article. The Seahawks are named a possible landing spot. So yeah, he's a free agent as we stand right now. Um, Incoming fantasy contributors, I can't say that there's a ton of juice there necessarily either. Keaton Mitchell, running back, has come over from the Ravens. David Njoku is probably the biggest player coming over, tight end from the Browns. They did sign Charlie Kolar, another tight end from the Baltimore Ravens as well. Some stats on the Chargers last year. They were sixth in plays per game, so they played fast, that surprises me for the Chargers, right? Harbaugh's kind of a ground and pound defensive coach, but they played at a pretty high rate. I think it's because they couldn't run the football very well. Um, their pass rate over expectation was 0.6%. Their EPA per play was 24th in the NFL. So actually not super valuable plays, but that could possibly be because they ran so many. Run percentage was 21st in the NFL, and they only scored the 24th most points per game in the NFL. I think the Chargers were a lot better on defense last year than people realize. One of the most underrated defenses in the NFL.
yeah, and they were a little banged up last year, obviously.
Yeah, more than a little. I mean,
Hampton
the
went
whole offensive
down.
line was decimated.
Yeah, a little bit was definitely an understatement. But yeah, they were banged up, and so their offense was not at full efficiency. I do think this upcoming season you're probably looking at a better offense and not much of a downgrade at defense, if any. So think in general the team looks to be in a better spot. Hampton hopefully can stay healthy. That's going to help the run game. Herbert having healthy weapons and a healthy offensive line. The offensive line mainly, like Drew said, that was devastating for Herbert.
And I did confirm yesterday when I was putting all this info into our stuff for the show. Both tackles are going to be ready for the start of the season. So Slater and Joe Alt are going to be there, which is huge. Um, I'm going to start at the quarterback position actually with this team. I really like targeting Justin Herbert this year in fantasy. Um, he put up good fantasy numbers last year with all those things working against him. Part of it was that he had to run the football more than I think he wanted to. But if they protect him with the emergence of Gadsden at tight end, paired with David Njoku, paired with Lad McConkey, and the fact that Quentin Johnston actually looked like a capable wide receiver last year, I really, really like the weapons on this team. I think that Justin Herbert's going to be a quarterback you want to target in your fantasy drafts. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that take, David.
No, I agree, and I think at his ADP, it's even more of a value because I think he's going outside the top 10, and I think he will probably finish inside the top 10 pretty safely if those weapons are healthy.
Yep, exactly right. Totally agree with you there. So, David and I are both endorsing go get Justin Herbert at his draft cost currently. Um, the David Njoku thing, it kind of it's good for Justin Herbert, like I just talked about, is good for the Chargers in general. It kind of makes me mad from a fantasy perspective because Gadsden really looked to be like a real thing last year. And now I just worry about the fact that they're going to have two very capable pass catching tight ends. Is that going to limit Gadsden's upside? What's your opinion on that?
Probably. Um, I think I probably wasn't the highest on Gadsden compared to most people anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. I think in general it's going to help Herbert. I don't think I would have probably been taking Gadsden unless it was at like a late round pick, like super late, like waiting to take tight end until everybody's gone.
Yeah, but that's a common draft strategy, right? People punt tight
Yeah,
end, and so he's definitely somebody I would have been looking at if I was somebody who
I
punted tight
just,
end.
I don't
But
know.
with
I think
Njoku,
it'll
no,
be
I'm
good for
not.
the offense. Yeah.
Njoku, no, I'm not looking at Gadsden that way. Um, I have to say the Keenan Allen getting out of there, it really makes me excited about the wide receivers. Because the wide receivers took turns being fantasy relevant last year. It was like the Lad McConkey game, then the Keenan Allen game, then the Quentin Johnston game, and you never really knew which one you could play and when. It wasn't matchup right? It was just like this guy was good this week, this guy was good this week. Those wide receiver targets are going to get consolidated into two wide receivers instead of three, unless we get some big emergence from like a Trey Harris or something. But um, makes me much more excited for Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnston this year, especially because I doubt the draft cost on those guys is super high. I would have to check it, but I don't believe they're probably going crazy high. So they're probably somebody you could draft as your third or fourth wide receiver, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's important, like you noted, though. I think Njoku probably takes some of that Keenan Allen target share, so I don't know how much the target percentage really goes up, unless I think those targets more so just go to Njoku because he's a very, very capable receiver.
Yeah, I mean I think Njoku is a capable receiver, but he can't do what Keenan Allen did. I think that McConkey's going to get more routes from the slot now that Keenan Allen is gone because I think they'll put Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston outside and throw McConkey in the slot, and that makes me excited about McConkey because that's where he thrives and he's excellent. Um, and Keenan Allen took up a lot of snaps in the slot as well, which uh, I think that was another possible reason for the McConkey, kind of dip last year, in addition to the fact that they just couldn't throw the ball super effectively because Herbert was under duress all the time. That's the other reason I'm more excited about the pass catchers. If Herbert stops running so much because he actually has time to throw, the wide receivers and Njoku are going to be better. And so I like these wide receivers. I'm definitely in on the two wide receivers for the Chargers for sure.
Fair enough.
David doesn't agree.
No, I don't not agree. I think they'll both have better years than last season. I just don't think they're going to be like awesome. I think
Yeah, but
McConkey
where
had a
they're
pretty
getting
solid year.
drafted, you're not expecting them to be awesome, awesome. You're expecting
I
them
think
to be.
McConkey's already going quite high based off what I've seen, though.
So maybe Quentin Johnston's the better value. But I like both of them for sure. Um, yeah, I just think that the Chargers offense last year was so like drop back to pass. Justin Herbert has no time to throw, and he's either getting sacked or he's running like a chicken with his head cut off, and he's picking up yards, and it just devastated the wide receivers. They just couldn't get a coordinated passing attack going because Herbert didn't have time to throw the ball. That's not what the Chargers want to do. They don't want Justin Herbert running that much. They want him to sit back there and throw the ball really, really well. And so I'm not sure what David's doing over there. Seems like he's zoning out on me. Um, but yeah, I think that the passing like success and volume is going to go up this year, and it's going to help all the pass catchers, regardless of who they are. And the fact that we lost one of the big three wide receivers that was taking stuff last year, I really, really like these wide receivers. So I think I'm more in on them than David, but that's definitely where I stand with their wide receivers. And I like Mike McDaniel. He's going to open up the offense a little bit.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, to be honest.
It's like for me, McConkey and Quentin Johnston, right? Like he's got his two wide receivers like he had with Waddle and Tyreek. I'm not saying those guys are on that level because they're not, but he's got the two wide receivers. And Njoku is the, right, like the Darren Waller, like the tight end that I think McDaniels wanted for a long time that he doesn't have or hasn't had. And now he gets. So I think all three of those guys are going to be decent fantasy options this year. And I would definitely be targeting the two wide receivers for sure. Um, last team to talk about, David, Denver Broncos.
Broncos country.
Yeah, recording this live from Broncos country right now. Kind of surprising. The Broncos fired their offensive coordinator last year. Um, Davis Webb, was promoted to offensive coordinator. Not much to speak about in terms of outgoing fantasy contributors. They re-signed J.K. Dobbins. Pretty much everybody who was eligible to leave was re-signed and stayed from a fantasy perspective. And then obviously we covered it a little on the AFC East podcast, but Jaylen Waddle was traded for. So Jaylen Waddle comes into that receiver room with the Denver Broncos. They were 7th in plays per game last year, had a pass rate over expectation of 1.6%. EPA per play was 15th in the NFL, so very average. Run percentage was 24th in the NFL. I don't think they ran the ball very well. I'm not sure I'm remembering that right, but I feel like they didn't run the ball very effectively.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like RJ Harvey was so inefficient.
Yeah. And they were 15th in points per game. So none of these teams last year in this division were scoring a ton of points. And that's because, at least with the Chargers and the Broncos, and to some extent the Chiefs as well, these defenses are really, really good. Anything specific you want to talk about first with the Denver Broncos, David?
No, I think it'll just be interesting to see if Bo Nix can bounce back from that broken, was it leg or foot? A broken lower leg, I think.
It's an ankle, I think.
Ankle, yeah. But other than that, I think pretty similar output offensively than last year, other than Jaylen Waddle being there, and I think that gives them a slight boost.
Yeah, but talk about it from a fantasy perspective. What does Jaylen Waddle mean for the fantasy options on this team?
I think Jaylen Waddle is the clear one. I think the other people take a back seat to that. I think Waddle probably puts up better numbers than he was in Miami, and I think it probably hurts Cortland Sutton the most, and then also brings down just those other guys. Pat Bryant. Whose name am I missing? What is his
Troy
name?
Franklin.
Trey Franklin. Yep, Trey Franklin. So yeah, I think Trey Franklin kind of falls off. I think it's kind of Waddle 1, Sutton touchdown dependent 2, and then
And
I
I think
think,
Marvin Mims is still there too.
yeah, and the other guys are kind of maybe one spike week every once in a while from a deep touchdown, something like that.
So is Waddle somebody you're targeting?
At ADP currently, yes. If he starts going up
And
the board now,
give me a little example of what his ADP is right now because I haven't checked in a while.
I am not 100% sure. When I was looking at drafts earlier, I mean, he was surprisingly low, like a bench receiver.
Yeah, I mean if he's going in that realm, then I'm in on Jaylen Waddle as well. Um, the only thing with the Jaylen Waddle trade that kind of scares me about the Broncos fantasy options is it going to turn into one of those things where you don't know who it's going to be, right? Like I think Jaylen Waddle's really good. I would expect him to be the fantasy option you want, but like is it going to turn into the Chargers of last year kind of where it's like Waddle has a spike game, Cortland Sutton has a spike game, uh Pat Bryant hits a home run ball, you know what I mean? And it's
I
like
could definitely see it being like that.
so I think from that perspective, I'm a little bit scared of Broncos wide receivers personally. But I mean, if
like
you're throwing Jaylen Waddle on your bench, like for sure, go for it.
like I'm saying, it depends on his ADP entirely to me. If he starts going up the board, I'm out. But if he's sitting late, I'll take a flyer on him for sure because he could have that wide receiver 2 for sure upside, if not higher. If he really hits it with Bo Nix.
Yeah, for sure. Um, anything else you want to talk about with the Broncos, David? Should we talk about the run game just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm officially kind of just out in general on the Broncos run game this year. I don't think I really want any of the pieces. I think it's going to be a big wash posh of mediocrity.
I'm not sure if I'm that down on them. If I'm taking somebody, I want Harvey for the upside, but um, I again, I'm not saying like I necessarily have to have these guys either. It's one of those teams where it's like it's hard to sift through. Like there's gonna be some fantasy juice there, but it is it gonna be Dobbins or
If I'm taking
Harvey?
a running back, I'm taking Jonah Coleman 100%. He's the one with upside in that offense.
Draft pick,
He's the
right?
rookie. Yeah, fourth rounder. I'm so out on Harvey. I was so in last year. He was terrible. And I already, like,
Yeah,
they're off of him.
I'm not going crazy in on a fourth round rookie. No way. No way at all.
I've been seeing
Um,
stuff. He's probably going to be involved right away. So I'm
I'm not
definitely in
saying he
on him
won't be
as a
involved
late
right away,
flyer.
but there's no way he's gonna be the one you wanna play right away. Definitely not. I think that you're probably right. The answer is you probably don't want to play any of them right away. Um,
By end of season, Jonah Coleman will be a fantasy relevant player. By mid season, book it now.
you could be right. You could be right. I'm probably gonna stay away though. Um, should we move into some division predictions? Um, Reminder: last year Broncos in first, Chargers in second, Chiefs in third, Raiders in fourth. This year I've got the Chiefs returning to the top. This was a really, really hard pick for me because again, it's so Patrick Mahomes dependent. Um, when I sat down to make my division predictions, I wanted to put the Chargers number one. The Chargers have everything working for them. I just told you how much I like the receivers. Their tackles are going to be healthy. They invested in the interior of the offensive line, signing Tyler Biadasz from Washington. So I love the Chargers team. And that's who I wanted to pick number one. Then I sat down and looked at the Chargers schedule, and oh my goodness, is it rough. Um, Apparently, the strength of schedule is not as bad as the Chiefs and the Broncos. That's based upon the team's records from last year, but I sat down and looked at it, and there's no way that the Chargers don't have the hardest schedule in this division. It's rough. Um, they got a lot of teams on there that, I think kind of underperformed last year, but we're expecting to bounce back this year. And so I think that's where that little fluctuation in the strength of schedule comes from. Um, so I picked the Chargers to finish second and the Chiefs to return to the top. I've got the Broncos in third. And then the only thing I'm really certain about with this division is I'm pretty confident the Raiders are going to finish last. But those other three teams, to be honest, I could see finishing in any order.
Yeah, and then I have also the Raiders in fourth. I have the Chiefs finishing third. I think they're going to have another bad, underperforming year compared to what we've expected from them, especially if Mahomes starts the season out. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're kind of right on that wild card cusp. I think they might miss out again, but I do think the Broncos and Chargers are going to both be better this season. I have the Broncos second. I think they're going to have a little regression record wise, but still a good year. I think they'll probably be a wild card team, and then I think the Chargers are going to get over that hump and win the division. Like Drew talked about, their schedule is tough, but I'm just betting on the talent, betting on the team, coaching staff, in better offense, better offensive coordinator, more efficiency, just a good team in general.
So out of the three teams, David, the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, which team are you least confident can actually win the division?
I would say I'm least confident in the. I think the Chiefs.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm the least confident in the Broncos. The thing I was going to say at the beginning of the show that I said I was going to hold on to for later, the Broncos played 11 one-score games last year. They went 10-1. There's no way that repeats. Their schedule is much tougher. They're playing a first-place schedule this year. They did get Jaylen Waddle, which I like. And the rest of the stuff is relatively similar in terms of the players that they have. They have a great defense. None of that has changed, but that win-loss record in one-score games is going to regress to the mean. And if it regresses to 5-6 or 6-5, right, we're talking about a team that instead of winning 13 games wins 9 games.
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually think you're right. I think I'm least confident in the Broncos. I think they have the most room for regression. I think
Wow,
most
David, did
likely
I convince you of something?
little bit. I was right on the cusp between the two, and I think thinking back to last year, it makes the most sense.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty confident that the Broncos can't win this division. I think they could finish second and be a wild card team. I predicted them to finish third. Um, Even if the Chiefs start, 1-3 or whatever, and Mahomes isn't playing right away, when he comes back, I think that they're going to start winning games and they're going to rattle some off. And I compared the schedules of those three teams, the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, and in my opinion, at least, the Chiefs definitely have the easiest schedule. Um, so I'm banking on the Chiefs to bounce back. For me, it's like Chiefs Chargers. One of those two teams is going to win the division. I would be pretty surprised if those weren't the two teams that are fighting for the division at the end. I want it to be the Chargers because I want them to get over that hump, but the schedule just scares me a little.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think the Chiefs have an equal chance at winning the division or finishing third. I don't know. I don't really think they're going to finish second. I think they'll either underperform or be really good. I don't think they'll be like mediocrity or like just sniffing the playoffs. I think they'll miss or be one of the better teams.
I agree. I just think there's a sour taste in their mouth from last year, and really like the Kenneth Walker get for their offense, and their defense is still going to be good in my opinion. So that's why I'm in on them. But they're not the same. They're like the Chiefs, in my opinion, aren't like Super Bowl contenders anymore. But I think they can definitely compete to win the division. And like I said, I really like the Chargers this year. They're very impressive on paper, I feel like. Um, we should probably bookmark the fact that you agreed with me on something, David. I think that's a pretty big deal. And I convinced you to change your mind about something. That's an even bigger deal. David's
No,
very
you
stick
brought
to
up a
his
good
guns.
point.
He knows what he likes. He knows what he thinks, which is good.
Yeah,
You
no,
need somebody who sticks to their guns. I like it. That's why I
no,
like doing this
you
with
brought
you.
up a good point. It reminded me of something I already knew that kind of had overlooked. But those one score games last year, that's something we talked about a lot, actually, the two of us, and how kind of thought the Broncos were frauds last year going into the playoffs, and they
Isn't it
surprised
crazy
us a
that the
bit.
top 2 seeds in the AFC last year were frauds?
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, Broncos and Patriots. Also, apologies to everybody listening or watching. This will be the last episode that I have to record from this hotel room. If there's any weird noises, like background noises, I think my fridge in here is going jank right now. I can hear it myself, so I'm sure it's picking it up pretty good.
Yeah, but
But
that's why we edit the audio. It cuts out the background
yeah,
noise.
but just any weird stuff. This will be the last episode. Officially finishing my internship with the PGA tomorrow. So by the time anybody's seeing this, I will officially be done. Been a lot of work, and hopefully it'll bring a lot more free time in to my day instead of working for 90 hours in the week. And yeah, officially the last night. Shout out to the Extended Stay America in Eden Prairie, where the first 4 episodes of this podcast were filmed. So it's a
They'll
great
always
place.
be
Check it
they'll
out.
always be one of the birthplaces of the podcast. Um, as always, we're gonna finish up with our last little section where David shares a Bible verse. David and I want to continue to do that because that's a very important part of our lives. And so, David, I'm going to send it to you for that, and then we'll close out the show.
Yeah, so the first few episodes I've talked a lot about kind of not being worried, kind of putting your trust in God, all that kind of stuff. So today I kind of wanted to focus on how you can put your trust in God. And so Romans 10:9 says, if you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. I think in today's world, there's a lot of pressure or like points put on kind of how someone acts. So like someone's worldly actions, that makes them a Christian. Or if you're not doing this, you're not good enough. But the reality of it is, every human being is gonna make mistakes, is gonna sin. What we're trying to do isn't to not sin, but to love God so much that we don't have the desire for that sin. But what I'm getting at is that really the way you can come to God is by accepting Him. Nobody's going to be perfect. That's why Jesus had to come and die for our sins. And so when you accept Him, that's what gives you your salvation. And so anybody that's on the cusp or hasn't accepted Jesus into their life, I really encourage you to say that prayer to accept Jesus into your heart. I can tell you for sure that that's the best decision that I've ever made in my life. It just helps me every day knowing that I have God there. And so just accepting Jesus into your heart, it would be the best thing I think that anybody could do in their life. And I just really encourage either if you're ready to do that, or just start to look into it a little bit more, open up your heart and kind of let God work through you. And hopefully this can open that door for you. And if anybody comes to Jesus through this, that'd be an awesome thing for us. So hope you all have a great weekend, and I just want a little positivity and insight on how to accept Jesus into your life.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We're going to close out the show. We're continuing our divisional coverage next week. We'll be shifting over to the NFC and talking about the NFC East. I think that's going to be a really fun and exciting division this year. Lots and lots to talk about with that division. As always, these episodes are dropping on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can find us at the Fantasy Facts Podcast. We're on X at the Fantasy Facts, and on TikTok and Instagram, fantasy.facts. As always, facts is spelled FAX. If David doesn't have anything to add, he has something to add.
Post Conor McGregor victory. Hopefully this doesn't age
David
poorly.
told me he was going to plug Conor McGregor.
Shout out Patty Pimblett too.
This is a football podcast.
Shut your mouth, boy.
Anyways, looking forward to talk NFC with you guys starting next week, and I hope y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you on episode number 5.